The Leica M6TTL is the pinnacle of Leica's modern film cameras. Is that heresy just to say it out loud? Have I gone Leica loony? Have I lost my marbles? I think I'll be able to convince you.
My name is Rob Skeoch, and I've been shooting film for over 50 years and working as a professional photographer for over 45 years for clients like Major League Baseball, the NFL, and I've been published in Sports Illustrated and National Geographic. Maybe some of these techniques I've learned will help you as you learn about film photography.
Before we dive right in, I just want to mention that Ilford Photo has just featured my work, my black and white portrait work of rodeo cowboys on their blog. So this week's blog features my rodeo cowboys. Maybe you'll enjoy it. Take a look at it. It's ilfordphoto.com. So let's jump into the fray of which of the modern film cameras is really the best. Now when I'm saying modern, I'm talking about the M6, the MP, the M7, the new M6, the M6TTL. And I'm saying the TTL version was the very best. But let me start at the beginning. So let me take you back to 1984 for a minute. Leica's current camera was the M4P. No meter, but it had the frame lines for the 6 common lenses. And then they came out with the M6. So they actually put a promo on with the M4P where you would buy it and you would get a free sit on top light meter. But I saw the M6 and I thought it was great. We had an intern come to the newspaper to work. He was a college kid and he had an old M3 and it just kind of fascinated me. That was really when I was introduced to Leica for the first time. And I started to do a little bit of research and check them out, and I liked the M6, and it had come out in 84, and this was probably 84, 85. Camera just come out. At that time I was working full-time at a newspaper. Now minimum wage in Ontario was about $4 an hour then, and I was making way more than minimal. I was making like $8 an hour or $300 a week. Now this camera comes out new, $2,100, and I bought one at Fairview Photo in Brantford, Ontario. Brand new, black body, $2,100, didn't have a lens. It took weeks of pay just to get the camera body. Eventually, I started to use it. I got a couple of lenses. I started to use it. And working at a newspaper, you realize pretty quick, well, you need 2 camera bodies if you're going to use a system regularly. You need one for black and white, and you need one for color. So I ended up with 2 M6s and 4 or 5 lenses back in the mid 80s. Now those particular cameras, those were my first 2. They actually got stolen, so I worked at a different newspaper and I left them on my desk in the camera bag, and I went for lunch, and when I came back the camera bag was still there, but the cameras had been stolen off my desk at the newspaper. So the newspaper was a little bit embarrassed. What is going on here? How could this possibly happen? Especially since my desk wasn't anywhere near where the public could be. Anyways, the newspaper had insurance on it and they replaced them. So my 3rd and 4th M6 were kind of that replacement from the insurance deal. Now you can see there's some early pictures here of me in Central America. That's the very first pair of cameras. I'm probably only holding one camera and then took the picture with the other one. So I used the M6 for years, working as a photographer, but I realized I wasn't going to be this National Geographic photographer that I thought I was going to be, and I decided I was going to become a sports photographer. So I took my M6s and basically all the camera gear that I could get together, and I went and I traded it against a new Nikon F3 with a 400-2.8. And the 400-2.8 became my standard lens for 20 years as I shot pro baseball, pro football, became a pro sports photographer. So I got away from rangefinders. I didn't have any for a number of years. Then, maybe 12 or 15 years ago, I'm working full-time at Sony in the imaging group. Sony never made a film camera, and I still kind of wanted a film camera and a rangefinder. So I bought this M6 Classic, the old M6. And this one has had the winder changed. This is more of the winder from the MP, and it's got that bit of brassing that everybody in the world loves except me. So this is my 5th M6, and I started to shoot a documentary with it in my spare time. So while I was shooting that documentary, the camera actually had to go in for service, and I took it to Leica and they told me the part is going to take a while. You're not going to have this camera for a number of months, so you have to kind of deal with that. So I decided I'm going to buy a used MP. Now the world of professional photography has switched to digital for the most part by this point. Yeah, people are still shooting film. People always shot some film, but the professionals were shooting digital. And I think Leica realized, hey, we need to listen to our customers, and our customers for film cameras are not pro photographers any longer. So let's come out with a camera for photo enthusiasts. Let's come out with a camera for collectors. Let's come out with a camera for influencers who are not professional photographers. And they came out with the perfect camera for that, and that is the MP. Now, this is a chrome one, but it came out with black paint. Now, my criticism of the MP does not actually start with the MP. It starts with the M4. What? I thought the M4 was the perfect camera. Well, 67, the M4 comes out. It's current till like 75. And the thing with the M4 was it was a black body, brass with black paint. And the paint would rub off. When you put it in your camera bag and pull it out and use it, the paint would rub off, and you get the brassing, the patina that people call it. So that was with the M4. And photographers who went to like Vietnam with the M4, they came back after 6 months and they would go to Leica and say, here, my camera is only 6 months old. It looks like I've dragged it through the war. It's all, the paint's all coming off and there's brass showing and it just looks worn out and tired. I'm trying to do classy assignments now. I got this weird newish camera that looks terrible. So Leica, in their wisdom, comes out with a better material. They go away from the black paint and they go with the black chrome. So the black chrome is on the M4P, it's on the M6, it's on the M7, it's on the M6TTL. So when they come out with the MP, now I'm not talking about the original 1959, 1960 MP. I'm talking about the current modern MP. So when they come out with this current modern MP, they go back to the black paint because the photographers that are buying it, the photo enthusiasts, the collectors, the influencers, they never covered the war, but they want their camera to look like it was in the war. So they're sanding off the edges. They're showing that brassing through on the black paint so that when they put their camera down and they take a picture of it with their coffee, it's got that patina that everyone wants. But in the day when the M4 ruled the world, people thought the cameras looked rough and they switched to this black chrome because it was a tougher material. So if I was coming out with a perfect camera for a collector, an enthusiast, an influencer, I would also, just like Leica did, come out with a black paint on a brass body where you could see the brassing. Now, the other thing that I don't like about the MP is it's gone back to the old rewind dial. The M6, the M4, the M4P, the M7, they went with the slanted one, and it was a bit of an Achilles heel. If you bent that, it was really, really hard to wind the film or rewind it. But I never bent one, and I didn't know anyone who bent one, so I thought it was fine. But the MP, when they came out with it, they went out with the old style previous rewind. They've gone back to the small dial that's going the wrong way compared to the arrows inside. Now the meter itself is fantastic. It's got the arrows with the circle. That's fantastic. I love it. The viewfinder is a little bit better because it doesn't, some people are getting a haze, not a haze, a glare through their viewfinders on the original M6. But the MP has corrected that. So one of the great things about these cameras is the new viewfinders came out. So the original M6 had the 72 viewfinder, and that would allow frame lines for 6 lenses, just like the M4P. But they came out with a 58 viewfinder, which was better if you were shooting with a 28, because you could see the lines better for a 28, and if you were shooting with a 35, it was perfect because they were the only viewfinder lines you saw. It dropped off the viewfinder lines for the 135. So they came up with the 58 viewfinder, and that was fantastic. And so I shoot with a 28 a lot, so I bought an M7 with this 58 viewfinder. So after shooting with the camera for a little while, I realized, of course, that the shutter dial is backwards, and it's going in the wrong direction, and it's larger. But you know what? It's not going in the wrong direction. It's finally going in the right direction. They corrected it for the M7 because as you're adjusting the exposure and you're seeing the arrow is pointing which direction to turn the dial. So the other cameras, is backwards. It's the M7 that really had the shutter dial going in the correct direction. And it being larger just made it easier. And it has an off switch, which is great because you don't put your camera in your bag and have the shutter release pressed and your battery's dead after a couple of days because the camera bag is keeping the shutter button down. So you have the M7. Which other camera had the wheel going the right way? Only the M6TTL, because they reverted back for the MP. So the M6TTL comes out in '98 and it's only out for 4 years because after 4 years the M7 was there and then they went with the MP. So the M6TTL, I think it's the pinnacle. I think this was when Leica was still trying to make a camera for photographers, pro photographers, not for influencers, not for collectors. It has the better black finish. It doesn't get the brassing that the M4 had or the MP has. So the camera looks newer, longer. It's got the better rewind crank. It's got the bigger wheel with an off, and it's got the TTL. So I think of all the film cameras, the TTL version is the pinnacle. After this, I mean, the market had changed so much that they were really coming out with something for collectors, occasional users. I don't think by the time the MP came out, I don't think a lot of pros were clamoring for a new film body from Leica. A new M9 they were clamoring for. The M10 they were clamoring for. Sales are fantastic at Leica. The lenses are better than ever. So there we have it, the M6TTL. This is the pinnacle of the modern film camera from Leica. Yes, they had other cameras. The M4 was fantastic. The original MP was fantastic. Those cameras never had meters, and I don't see those really as being a modern camera. People love them. I love the M4, but I wouldn't call it a modern camera. This TTL version, this is the one to get. And you can get it with the 58 viewfinder, so if you shoot with a 28 or a 35, get that version. You can get it with the standard 72. There's more of those around. That's great too. It's got all 6 frame lines. Or if you shoot with a 50 or a 75, maybe you want to get the 85 viewfinder. Now, does that mean I need a separate camera for every lens? That's ridiculous. Yeah, it's ridiculous, but it sure is great to shoot with. Just saying. This is the one to get, M6TTL. And I just wanted to mention one more time, if you have a chance, go to ilfordphoto.com and check out some of the blogs. They did feature my black and white portrait work of rodeo cowboys.